Before choosing Dorothy Dix as my historical figure, I had honestly never heard of her. I just picked a random name from the list, and I thought it would be cool to learn about someone that I knew nothing about, and that's exactly what I did. Dix is an incredible woman who worked in the mental health field for many years. Dorothy is a great example of someone who did amazing work for the community of the mentally ill. In this speech, I am going to discuss her life and what it looked like from birth to adulthood. I will discuss her well-renowned works and the ways in which she impacted individuals struggling with mental illness. Dix's life began in 1802, where she was born in Maine. Growing up, Dorothy Dix didn't have a great relationship with her parents. Her mom was terminally ill, and her dad was an alcoholic. Dix spent a lot of time at a young age caring for her mother because her father was incapacitated most of the time he was at home. In 2004, Margaret Muckenhop published a book about Dix and better explained Dix's childhood and feelings of neglect and abandonment that she felt at such a young age. Muckenhop mentioned that Dix began to hate her life and decided to run away at the age of 12 to her grandmother's house in Boston. Once she arrived at her grandmother's house, she actually turned Dorothy away, claiming that she was not able to care for her. Dix was sent back home to her parents. It wasn't until 1816 that Dix was finally able to leave her parents. Thanks to her grandmother, she arranged for Dix to live in Worcester with a woman named Sarah Fisk. Barbara Whitman in 2003 wrote a book about Dix and began social reforming. Whitman discussed Dix's life after she chose to run away from home at the age of 14. Dix, like many other girls at her age, became a school teacher and thoroughly enjoyed that career. It was uncommon for young girls her age to become teachers and be independent. Though not only was she a teacher, she also started an elementary school for the girls living in her grandparents' home. But as this time went on, she became ill and had to stop teaching. It wasn't until 1842 when Dorothy began to take interest in the mentally ill. A journal article written by Jeff Strickler and Tracy Farmer in 2019 for Pioneers in Nursing mentioned her many years of studying prisoners who had mental illnesses. Dix was able to encourage the government to start building and funding for mental asylums, and her efforts led to a bill enlarging the state mental institution in Worcester. Eventually, after many years of making an impact for the mentally ill community, she contracted malaria and ended up passing away in 1887. The work that Dix did to help change the way mentally ill patients are viewed and treated will never be forgotten. An article published in 2006 by Manon S. Perry for the American Journal of Public Health discussed Dorothy's life and made efforts to help mentally ill individuals. It all started when Dix started volunteering at a local prison and noticed how inmates suffering from different mental illnesses were treated inhumanely and were oftentimes neglected. She didn't know how common it was for inmates to suffer from mental illnesses, but the more time she spent at prisons, the more common she realized it was. It was a serious problem that she felt no one cared about. She didn't see any advocates for the prisoners, which seemed like is why she started to invest so much time and effort into those individuals. Not only did she become the advocate, but she also went on to create treatment plans for those prisoners. As time went on, as mentioned previously, she began to get the government involved to make changes. She lobbied federal and state governments for better conditions for prisoners and those with a mental illness. She eventually found legislators who were sympathetic for her and helped her to make a change. Strickler and Farmer 2019 discussed Dix's involvement in the Civil War. She served as a superintendent of the female nurses of the Union Army. In my research, I gathered that she actually struggled in this position. She had never had a job position like this before, but not only that, she was a woman working in what used to be considered a man's field. She faced a lot of obstacles and struggled. She worked hard to overcome the stereotypes of women not being in charge and wasn't necessarily too successful, but in the end it helped her to grow into the woman she became to be. After the Civil War went on to continue her work for the mentally ill, by 1880, Dix was responsible for creating 32 of the 123 mental hospitals existing in the U.S. at that time. Dorothy Dix made a huge effort into changing the treatment of the mentally ill. The work she did and the changes she made back in the 1800s helped lead us to where we are today. From her childhood all the way up until she died, she was always looking after others and putting their needs first. I am happy to have gotten a chance to learn about her and how she was able to have a life-changing impact on so many people.